Hey fellow meta fighters, Laggimus Prime here again with a new deck profile for one of the most fun decks that I think I've made so far, at least for me personally. This is Behemoth Power. And I'm pretty sure you can guess exactly what the deck is going to be about. Yes, it is going to be about the leader, Chi Behemoth. I always had a feeling whenever I saw this Medabot in the card game, his power was going to be something a little strange, but if utilized correctly, will definitely hurt the opponent very much. The goal for this deck is simple. Try to hit your opponent as hard and fast as possible until you reach the end game where you make it even harder for them to hit you while also retaining your power and hitting just as much as you were before. But once you reach the end game and you activate your Metaforce, well, they're going to have no energy to work with. You're going to be powered up almost permanently, and not even their Metaforce is going to be able to hit you. But let's not waste any time. Let's go ahead and start looking at the cards. And here he is. This is Chi Behemoth, or however you want to say it. I'll just say Behemoth. So this is the main leader card, his left arm and his right arm. This is what you'll be starting with in the game, although you could run the alternate version of his left arm, the fighting type physical one, but I prefer the aim shot one just due to the fact that it will be able to go over anything trying to shield or guard. But yes, that's all for his left arm. It is just an aim shot ability, but he himself has the trait heavy armor. This is what you're kind of focusing on. While the total energy of both players is 12 or less, this Medabot gains 3,000 power. Now, usually when you think of that, you're like, oh, but when you reach the end game, both players have 16. How are you ever going to get lower than 12 pretty much permanently? Well, there's a Metaforce card later that we'll talk about that will explain this. But let's go ahead and get through the arm parts first. So for the right arm, it's just his basic arm. It'll give you a shooting tactical stock and 1,000 power. Not very much there, but let's go ahead and look at my alternatives or my secondary arm parts. So we move on to the other left arm. This is Armored Chariot's pretty much anti-tank cannon. It has the same ability as Aim Shot for 6 energy, but what this one does is if you hit something with guard with this aim shot, you increase the power of the attack by 3,000. So this is what you'll want to switch to just in case you're going against a defensive deck such as Armored Chariot or Red Matador or any leader that has a shield or guard type part that is giving them that ability. This will be able to just boost your damage without ever having to do anything extra about it. All you got to do is just equip this part and shoot at them. So you'll also notice that our right arm has changed to a support type right arm. This is Dr. Bok Choi's right arm. It will give you 1 support type tactical stock and plus 1,000 power. The reason why we have this one is just a cheap and easy way to get a support tactical stock, because you will be running a couple of those in the deck that are supposed to help you with these 1-cost cards, or at least a couple of cost cards, just to be able to activate a few things in case you don't actually get to play the Medabots that have these tactical stock. Moving on to the final set of parts, we have another left arm. This is Particles Type A left arm. Now, this is an arm that you want to save until you have only 2 or fewer barriers. Reason being is this is another aim shot ability, but this is aim shot leader only. So even if the opponent plays some kind of card or some kind of Medabot that has to make you target them, this will only be able to hit the leader. But what you're looking for is the secondary ability. If you have 2 or fewer barriers and this aim shot destroys a part or barrier of the opponent's leader, you choose 1 additional part and destroy it. So you can start whittling down the parts that they keep trying to replace, just in case, because you're going to be hitting them a lot with these effects. And whenever you get low into the end game, sometimes they'll have a lot of parts that you have to get rid of before you're able to finish them off. But still, this is just a way to get rid of parts just with 1 single attack instead of having to hit like 3 or 4 times. But for the last right arm, this is Beastmaster's right arm. It will give you plus 2,000 power and 1 shooting tactical stock, but you have to have 2 or fewer barrier. Now, that is actually good for this deck, because when you get at least to 3, you start getting really powered up. Not really like in terms of you're going to be hitting a lot of times, but you're going to be almost at like 9,000 to 10,000 power permanently, and with certain Medabots and effects, maybe even higher up to 11 or 12 all the time. But when you get the 2 and you apply Beastmaster's right arm, man, the opponent will really not be able to do very much against you. Like, even some of their Metaforces can't even touch you because they can only do up to like 7,000 damage. But like I said, you'll permanently be at like 9 or 10. So you really won't have too much to worry about unless they are able to continuously attack you over and over again. But with your Metaforce, they won't be able to do that either. Now, there's not too many recommendations I can really make with these arm part suggestions, but the other thing that you could do is use Chi Behemoth's left B-type arm. It is more passive and doesn't have aim shot, so you'll be doing more physical attacking. So you'll be a bit more vulnerable to the guard Medabots on the opposing team, but this is another way to get rid of your opponent's arms a little bit more effectively. This arm has pretty much almost the same effect as the aim shot particle one, but instead what this does is when this Medabot destroys a part or barrier of the opponent's leader, if your opponent has 5 or more remaining parts, you choose one additional opponent part and destroy it. So it's kind of like the early game version of that particle left arm. And then like the particle arm is more for late game. But like I said, with this part, the reason why I don't use it is because I kind of want to keep that aim shot theme, because there's a lot of times where the opponent will play out these blockers and you can't get past them. Like, you probably can if you swap the arm to the aim shot ones, but at the same time, like, I don't know, I just kind of prefer the other ones. I might give this one a shot and see how it goes, and then swap to the aim shot whenever I see they've played out a blocker or a guard. But either way, like, both of them are good to use, so feel free to use them however you want. This one can also help out with that pesky Artemis late game Medabot that has really good guard effect. Pretty much when they activate their guard, they are immune to Medabots that have like action abilities, so like aim shot. So using this can get over that, but at the same time, it's like you're going to have to waste energy attacking this Medabot. But like I said, the choice is yours. But I'm going to go ahead and skip a whole bunch of stuff and go straight into the metal. This is where you're wanting to focus on. Well, not really. You're not wanting to get like all of your barrier gone immediately, but at the same time, you want to try to deal damage until you've reached this barrier limit, but you want the metal 0. This metal has a perfect trap type card or Metaforce card that works very well with Chi Behemoth, and that card being Sea Absorber. And once again, I apologize, I haven't updated my Metaforce cards yet. I've been too busy playing the game. But this Metaforce card can be activated at 3 energy when you've leveled up the metal fully, and it places a plant that it's just called Sea Absorber. Now, what that plant does goes hand in hand with Behemoth's passive, which is this plant makes it to where both players can only have 10 energy total. Well, not like total, but like both players can only have 10 energy at a time. That works wonders with Behemoth because of the fact that you need at least 12. Both players need to have 12 or less energy in order for him to get a permanent 3,000 bonus. That's great because there's a lot of Medabots that you can use that will use at least 4 energy, and then you just attack with Behemoth and you'll be at 0 all the time and your opponent will be at 10. You have a permanent damage boost or power boost throughout the entire Robattle after you activate this card. Now, there are ways to get rid of plants or at least make them ineffective, but I've been playing for a good few days now, and I've hardly ran into anybody running these cards, and they're usually just recovery types only. So, or maybe a meta fighter here, but they don't get rid of it except for one card, but usually they just prevent them from being activated or activating. Still, not very many people run away to get out of traps or plants. Usually they just try to find a way around it. So this plant will pretty much stay active throughout the entire rest of the Robattle once you've got it online. Now, the other trap or card, Metaforce card that you can run with this, there's 2 of them, but the one I run preferably is Effect Trap. This trap, once activated, and it can be activated at 4 barrier when you fully leveled up the metal, What this one does is if the opponent's leader tries to activate an ability that, something that costs energy or is in the blue text box, then everything on their side of the field will take 10,000 damage. Now, this won't do anything against like fighting type decks where they don't have any abilities that they activate. They're pretty much all passives. It's kind of a coin flip of running this or the other card, but I guess it depends on the kind of day you're having. If you're going against a lot of shooting type decks or decks that use a lot of abilities on their leader, then you'll want to use Effect Trap. If not that, then you'll want to run the other one called Attack Trap. Now, the Attack Trap kind of does the opposite of what Effect Trap does. Instead of relying on the leader to activate an ability, this one more goes on if the leader attacks you, then it will deal 10,000 damage to everything on their field. So both of these secondary meta forces can really halt the opponent depending on the deck you're going against. But like I said, if you're going against a fighting type deck and you use the Effect Trap, that trap is pretty much never going to activate unless the opponent has some part in there that they can actually activate. Other than that, it's not going to do anything. But still, the main focus point of this metal or this metaforce is the Sea Absorber metaforce, because that is what gives Behemoth its permanent power boost. Now, to save on time, I'm going to go ahead and show you the full deck list right here. I'll go over each card individually. So the left side has pretty much already been covered with the leader and the arm parts, and the metal has already been discussed. But let's go ahead and get into the main deck and show you what everything is that you will need for it. So here's the full deck list right here. I will be going from the top left to the right and left and right until I've reached the very bottom. So hopefully you'll be able to keep up, and I will give a brief explanation about what every single card is doing and the reason why they are in the deck. So the first two cards will be Brass and Swimmer Mate. Now, the reason why they're in the deck is because of both of their abilities. They're the exact same, which is like Radar Sight. Essentially, when you activate this effect for 2 energy, whatever damage hits the opponent or the opponent's leader next will be dealt twice. This is essentially another way of secondary attacking in a way, but instead of like doing a cross attack where you need like 12 energy in order to do it, you'll instead only be using maybe 8 or even 6 or whatever else it is. But they both serve the same purpose. But the reason why you want to prefer Swimmer Mate over Brass, because Brass only gives you a shooting tactical stock, even though she is a support and shooting type, whereas Swimmer Mate will give you a recovery and a support tactical stock. I really wish that Brass at least gave a support tactical stock, but either way, you'll be running 3 of them in the deck because you really want to see at least one of them in your hand whenever you want to start dealing damage. The next Medabot, I'm going to butcher the name because I don't know how to say it, but it is Saisho Gunshi. This Medabot is really kind of handy for giving you tactical stock, along with a 4 energy ability that will increase everything on your side of the field except for itself with 2,000 power. So this is a way to boost some of your Medabots to make sure they don't die right away, or the opponent has to find some other way to get rid of it, but also increasing Behemoth so that way he can tank more damage and deal more damage. And this 2,000 power lasts until your opponent's turn, so it doesn't go away until the end of your opponent's turn. So if you want to try to keep something alive, or if you want to just buff Behemoth because you know something big's about to come, then you throw this out there and you activate it and you tank that damage. Now on to Little Lacey. You want to run 3 Little Laceys purely for one reason only, and it's not her ability actually. It is actually because she gives you 3 tactical stock. She's the only support Medabot that gives 3 tactical stock of the support type. Now her ability can come in handy. I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with that, but there's a lot of the times where you're not going to have the cards in hand to rapidly cool your leader or anything else, and you kind of want to use energy with this build because you want to be as low as possible so your Behemoth can be really powered up. But I have run into circumstances where my opponent didn't go after my Little Lacey. They just left it alone. So you just get a free hit with it. And if you have the cards to rapidly cool and hit again, by all means use it. But it's a very utilized or utility card in both terms of getting tactical stock and this very useful effect. The last card you want 3 of is Noelle. Noelle is purely in here for tactical stock again, but the passive does come in handy. What her passive does is if something on your side of the field rapidly cools, then she will randomly deal 6,000 damage to something on the other side. I'm not saying that this hasn't happened before. I've had plenty of times where I've hit the opponent for an extra 6,000, and it's nice to see, but more than likely she's not going to be doing very much, just going to be there for the tactical stock. But either way, it's nice to get a couple of extra hits in. Now we move on to the tactical cards. You'll need 3 of Piercing Round Deployment. Now what this card does is it gives one shooting Medabot type on your field 1,000 power until the start of your next turn. This is another way to power up Behemoth just in case the opponent has also gotten up to 7,000 or anything like that, or you want to keep them alive. This is just a real cheap and easy way to power up just a little bit, and you'll only want these ones, these shooting tactical cards, because you're only going to be getting maybe 1 or 2 of 2 tactical stocks, so you won't be using very many of these, nor any other tactical cards of the shooting type. Next is a really useful card. This is Reconnaissance. What it does is you choose one of your Medabots, and until the end of the turn, when that Medabot destroys a part or barrier of the opponent's leader, choose one opponent part and destroy it. So pretty much this is another way to get rid of parts after you've dealt damage to the opponent. Now this does have a little bit of a caveat that you need 4 or less barrier in order to activate it, but still you're going to be getting hit because you're not really running anything defensive in this deck. This is pure gas, like you're just going up. You're like I want to say you're a glass cannon until the end game when all of a sudden you're just a cannon, but like at the same time you're not going to be having very much energy to do multiple attacks, so you want these Medabots that will let you hit additional times, or cards that will allow you to get rid of parts. That's a technical multiple hit. Now on to probably my favorite support card in this game. It is a 1-cost free rapid cooldown. This tactical card is called Overload. You choose one of your support Medabots and rapidly cool it. But at the end of your turn, you return that Medabot to the deck. So there is a downside to using this card, but honestly, you don't care much about your support Medabots once they've been used, because they are there to give Behemoth more effects and ways to attack or power up, and then their usefulness is gone. More than half the time, every single one of your support Medabots that you place out here is gonna be destroyed. There's not very many times where an opponent's just gonna let it slide. They're gonna find some way to get rid of it.
Fine. I'll do it myself.
Now on to the recovery tactical card. This is a 1-cost recovery type card that you will use to make sure Behemoth can actually deal damage. This is Urgent Care, and what it does is it removes all curable negative status effects from all of your Medabots. And I found out the hard way that status effects are everywhere and they suck. There's Frozen, there's Shocked, there's Burn, there's Bind, but the worst ones out there is definitely Frozen and Shocked. Frozen makes it to where you can't activate any abilities, you can't attack, your passives can go off, but that's about it. Shocked, you can still attack, but you can't activate any abilities, so that kind of hurts this deck because of the fact you're going to be using aim shot a lot. So you want a way to be able to get rid of those status effects, and this is a real cheap and easy way to do it without having to play a Medabot out. Now we move on to Meta Fighters. The first one here is Mio. You want to run 2 of this. So what this does is you choose one of your opponent's Medabots that is currently overheated, and that target does not cool down at the start of the turn. This is a way to kind of halt or slow down or maybe stop a really bigger Medabot that is on cooldown or on an overheat, and it prevents it from cooling down, so your opponent has to give up a whole bunch of cards in order to activate it again. Because once you get to the end game, both you and your opponent will have low barriers, and since you don't run any big cards in here, you're pretty much just going straight after the leader. You're not going to be hitting the bigger cards that they play out as often. You can, but that's going to be using resources, and that's going to be using your time and energy just getting rid of a bigger card. Mio can help you kind of make it to where the opponent has to be like, get rid of a bunch of cards. Like some of the rapid cooldowns on them are like 5 or 3, or like Dead Quasar where they have to get rid of 10 cards in order to rapidly cool it. This is just another way to kind of prevent them from activating those abilities or attacking with them. But if you wanted to, you could probably replace this meta fighter with a couple of other tactical cards of this recovery that will get rid of traps, because traps are a big deal with this deck as well, but not as bad because, like I said before, your support types are going to be getting destroyed, and if you get high enough power, the damage from the traps won't matter. But still, this is just what I run personally. Now, what I run for another meta fighter is Nay. I run 3 of her, mainly because I can only run 3 cards of Overload. But with Nay, I can duplicate that again and again and again, and effectively I could have 6 copies of Overload in my deck if I wanted to. But what Nay does is essentially you copy a card in your hand and you pretty much create another one. So you can have up to 6 copies of one card in your hand if you wanted to. But I usually use it on Overload because it is a very, very good card, especially if you have Brass or Swimmer Mate on the field. You just have one Overload. All right, well, you can copy it with Nay to make another one. Now you can hit your opponent 3 times because you've used Brass or Swimmer Mate's effect, and you only used it for maybe 4 energy. Maybe 10 energy, which puts you down to 0 with Sea Absorber, which means you have a permanent power boost with your leader. And the last card, but not least, is Samantha. Run 3 of these. You're pretty much going to be seeing Samantha as a 3 of in every single deck. I think this is a staple card. Samantha's effect is the next Medabot that you play after you play this meta fighter will not go into overheat. So essentially, no summoning sickness. You throw something out there and you're instantly able to activate its ability. I think this is a staple card in every single deck because you just get a free Medabot that can do whatever it wants as soon as you play it. I mean, that's it. Unless you're using it on your first turn, then I think it's kind of a waste because then that Medabot can just get destroyed. But still, Samantha, 3 of always. But here is another look at the deck list in its entirety. Like I said, you can choose and change things as much as you want. Nothing is set in stone. All I know is I'm happy with this creation because I haven't seen anybody else run it. Not very many people run Behemoth, but I have run into someone who was playing it, but I think they were just doing a standard shooting type deck with tactical cards and stuff like that, and Behemoth, I guess, was just there as a side thing. But I'm really happy with this creation because I was thinking about making this kind of deck when I first saw the cards. I was like, oh man, it'd be great if I could just have Behemoth's power just permanently boosted because of this card. Oh, it was great. And the fact it does work. It really does work. It may seem a little bit like, oh no, it's not going to work because like you start getting hit pretty hard because you are like essentially a glass cannon at the very beginning. But once you get that Sea Absorber plant out, then it just changes. Your opponent can't hit you multiple times like they want to. Some of their actions or abilities they can't really do. Like if you're going against a particle deck and they have Fermion out there, they can only activate his freaking ability to give everything a little shield, and then that's it. They have 2 energy left. They can't do anything about it. So it's like, I'm really happy with this deck. I have a lot of fun with it, and I really hope that you enjoy it and have fun with it. Please let me know in the comments if you have any questions or anything like that, or just tell me how it goes for you. But that's all I got for you. I hope you have a good day, and I'll catch you later.